This is Harry Judd for Boxing Social in partnership with Empire Fight Store. Dramatic scenes here in Nottingham. Emotions are running high, Dave. Just put into words what you've just witnessed there, mate.
Sickening, mate. Absolutely sickening. I thought Leigh was in great shape. He was boxing really, really well. When he was disciplined and he was patient, I thought he controlled the distance, the space. His lead hand work was fantastic, walking Lara onto great shots. Earlier on in the fight, I thought maybe he was a little bit tense and wanted to slug it out a little bit, doing it perhaps a little bit too much, and that's when he was getting caught with some shots. And then he settled down a little bit, and then he was very, very patient. And I thought he was breaking Lara down. He was really, really breaking him down. You could see Lara getting hurt. You could see Lara looking like he was perhaps getting tired. The body work was taking effect. But then he made the mistake where he hooked with a hooker. He dropped his right hand and he got beat to the shot, and that's boxing. You know, this is what happens in boxing. When you roll that dice and you're taking these fights at top level against monster punchers, you cannot afford to switch off for 1 second, because that's what can happen. And unfortunately for Leigh, that's what happened tonight.
You say this is what happens at the big level. This is a voluntary defence, by the way. That has got to be understood. I think the rematch will now be taken as well. That's the fight we want to see. Were you surprised at how comfortable Leigh was in that ring? Because a lot of people had him, had Lara as the favourite in that fight.
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you. I said to anybody that asked, for me, what Leigh was doing with controlling the distance and space, that's what I expected, and that's why I understood why they wanted Lara, and that's why I thought Leigh would win that fight. And yes, there's that element of danger, because you think, you know, you're in with a punch, you could get knocked out at any time. But I felt as though Leigh's got the capabilities of winning that fight. And I was, you know, people in here, I was saying it might be easier than what you think. And I thought it was how I kind of thought until the ending. But that's, again, Lara's a world-class puncher, an elite level puncher, you know, and that's what can happen if you get hit with those sort of guys. You make a mistake, you're made to pay.
Do you think Lara was surprised with Leigh Wood's power? I know it's been spoken about time and time again. We've seen Leigh Wood knock opponents out, obviously Conlon last time here, but do you think Lara was perhaps surprised by how Leigh Wood fought tonight?
About his power? I don't think he was surprised by his power. I just think that these Mexicans are willing to take whatever they're going to take in order to win the fight. I think that's what makes a big difference with these guys. They're built different. It's like people see him. Well, I remember before he did Warrington, after weighing, we saw him in a hotel with his massive pizza, and we was like, "What the fuck's he doing?" And you kind of like look at him thinking, it doesn't matter. They're built different. You know, they are built different. They don't do all the S&C coaching. They don't do, you know, the modern methods and things like that. They get in there and they fight, and they can fight. And they've got this mentality that they're willing to take anything, go through anything in order to win the fight. So I don't think he was surprised by Leigh's power. Did it register? Yes, of course. But he's experienced that before in fights, where we've seen him where he looks a little bit rattled, he looks a little bit startled, it doesn't look comfortable. But he keeps churning it out. Do you know what I mean? So it's just one of those things.
Just two more for me. The rematch, obviously, that will be next. Has Leigh Wood got to change anything in this rematch, or go on?
Stay the stuff that was boring for the crowd that wanted to see a tear up. The stuff that was simple and effective, and you saw where he had the success. Just repeat, repeat, repeat. Don't come away from that. You don't have to make it exciting. You don't have to have a trade up, because you now know that in a trade up, this man can put your lights out. So, is there lessons to be learned there? Yes. Is it a mistake? Yes. But is it tonight, Lara's the better man, but is it a fight where Leigh can reverse the result? Yes.
And finally, we saw the emotions are after this, obviously the defeat tonight. Just talk to me about the emotions for you, because obviously this is devastating, this loss. How well, not frustrating, but how upset are you that obviously with the way it went out, Dave?
Yeah, listen, I managed to leave, you know, for a few years, and then we had a lot of success, and I'm so happy for him because he's such a nice kid. His family, me and my wife have been sat with his auntie and his family tonight, you know, during the build-up of the undercard of the show. They're nice people. He's had a hard career, and he's pulled himself up, and he's done his family and himself proud. But I know how much that's going to hurt him because it's in Nottingham. He's very, very proud of being from Nottingham. He's very, very proud of having the support of all these people here. You know, the club are behind him, the ice hockey team are behind him, everybody in Nottingham's behind him. But he's kind of took over from Carl Froch in here, in that same warrior spirit, that same sort of exciting fights. But also, Carl came back from defeats. You know, he came back from defeat, and look at what he went on to. So Leigh can do the same thing.
No shame in losing that fight tonight, Dave, at all.
This is boxing. In a world where we're constantly complaining and criticising about fighters choosing easy fights, Leigh Wood picked Lara, knowing what he'd done to Warrington, knowing what his reputation is. Leigh Wood picked this guy in a voluntary defence. Didn't have to do that. He could have just picked anybody else in the top 15, could have moved somebody into rankings, whatever, could have had an easier fight. But he wanted to put on...
As he was probably told to, instructed to, yeah.
He would have done. But he wanted to take a fight like this in front of everybody, roll the dice and show people what he's about. So you got to respect him for it.